Good afternoon and welcome to another Kerfuffle showcase. And I am delighted today to have Colin from Adiuvo.
Close enough.
We've literally, sorry everybody, because I'm so professional, I was just spending minutes with Colin backstage trying to get that right, and I did warn him that I was going to absolutely completely mess that up, but I've tried my best anyway. The important thing is I got Colin right, so that's
Yeah.
you know, I'm all about the glass being half full here. Colin, give us a little bit about your background, and then we're going to touch on the business.
Okay, so me, my whole history in property has been in property management from way too many years to remember. First starting kind of regionally for part of the Countrywide group many years ago in asset management, which was a posh way of saying we looked after distressed properties. And then through Kinley Folkard and Hayward and Douglas and Gordon in both lettings and block management. For a few years up in town until I decided along with the other director of the company who was ex-Clutton's that we would start Adiuvo, as we would say. And so my background has been almost entirely my whole professional life in property management.
Cool. Okay, that's why you're looking so refreshed, and obviously it's there's no stress in that part of the job at all, is there?
Yeah, none.
Okay, and give us an overview for the listeners and the watchers out there. Adiuvo, let us know what you do as a business.
Okay, so we are a professional out of hours, predominantly call handling service for the property industry, and so we will take all of your emergency calls out of hours, white labeling the service, and what we would say is the difference between us and certain other providers that are out there that can certainly answer your phones out of hours, albeit whether it be 2:00 in the morning or Christmas Day or whenever it was, because unfortunately we never ever shut 365 days a year, 24/7, is that because I'm from a property background and so are a lot of my team, we actually triage those incoming calls, make sure that we only instruct on the emergencies, because obviously, as we all know, there's an uplifting costs at sending a plumber out at 3:00 in the morning as opposed to 11:00 the next day, or again on a bank holiday or anything like that. And then we manage, if necessary, the whole of that emergency to its completion before handing back to our clients the next working day.
So that's fascinating. So that, as you mentioned, there's great companies out there, the likes of Moneypenny and other ones out there that do that kind of the call answering, as they famously always used to say, we answer calls and that's all we're doing. And what you guys have done from day one is actually say, no, we're going to explore and develop that niche, and we are going to expertly handle this property management element of it, and actually do far more as your own internal team would be able to do, to make sure that you actually progress it to the right point in the quickest possible time.
That's right. Or probably just as pertinently, not process it sometimes, because
I was going to say isn't that, I mean, I can imagine that you could deal with any number of actually companies who would just be very good at saying, well, we're going to just escalate this. But as you've mentioned, with the cost element of this, that's absolutely the last thing you'd want to do, isn't it?
Well, absolutely. And especially as if I'm acting for you as the estate agent, for example, I'm not even spending your money, I'm spending your client's money. So it's even worse if I can't justify to you why I've taken a certain course of action.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, if at 3:00 in the morning somebody's washing machine's not working, then that's not actually an emergency in the true sense of the word. You can still hand wash a shirt for work the next day or whatever it might be. But if you've got water pouring out of the boiler, then obviously that is. I mean, interestingly, we've been doing this for 13 years now, and our stats would say that about 36% of all calls that we receive are actually emergencies. So about 2 in 3 calls that we get aren't emergencies. I think the key thing there is that we don't just have a computer says no kind of response. We'll still take all the details. We'll report it back to our client. We will, with knowledge, tell the caller why it's not going to be done right now, but that the main office, as we would refer to them, will pick it up the next day. But in the 1 out of 3 that are emergencies, then that's when we kick into gear. Actually, they're the easier ones to deal with rather than telling people no, they can't have a brand new cooker on Boxing Day or something along those lines, or whatever the unusual requests that we get might be. The emergencies are actually the easiest ones, because then we can just instruct a contractor, coordinate and liaise with them throughout the emergency, and then, as I said, report it back to our clients the next day.
So you actually have direct links through to all the relevant contractors for the agencies as well. So there's no middleman stuff. It's not going through back to the agency. You go straight to the relevant contractors to get this progressed in the quickest possible time. Yeah,
absolutely. In one of two ways, either one of three ways, mate. Either the client, the estate agent, can say, hey, this is our plumber for any kind of related issues, this is our electrician, or they can, and often do, give us access to their CRMs, and then we can go on. I'll give you an easy one, Reapit, for example, and then go and say, oh, okay, so for this property, the landlord wants us to use X, or unfortunately, they have a British Gas policy because they're not worth the paper they're printed on, but people still use them. Or if none of that works for our agent and he doesn't want to provide a contractor, we can do it ourselves. We have coverage for the whole of the UK in being able to provide that plumber in Ipswich, Loughborough, Edinburgh, Bristol at 3 o'clock in the morning if needs be. But if our client wants to use their own, or our client's landlords want to use their own, then we're more than happy to instruct those.
So it can be. It sounds like can be quite nuanced depending on the agent you're dealing with.
Yeah, and a nuance between different agents and even between different properties. So you again could have ABC plumbers as your preferred guys on 99 out of 100 of your properties, but if you've got it specially marked that Mr. Smith has his own preferred guy, as I'm sure you know some landlords do, then we can go down to the macro and the micro basically, and even do it from property to property different.
That's a really nice feature to have in your kit bag as well. I mean, obviously, I'm a bit of a train spotter for CRMs, but so to be able to actually go in and use most of the well-known one there as well, that must be a nice feature for most of your clients, knowing that there's no rekeying of information and things like that, and everything.
Whether it be Reapit or Radar or Spazier, or because it's just on the maintenance side, Fixflow or whatever, we can access the details via our client. They'll give us logins and we'll just go grab it and make sure. And then also that means that if they've got any special kind of notes for the landlord or the resident perhaps on file, that they need special attention or that they can cause issues or anything like that, we get access to all of that.
And give us a flavour of the kind of clients you're dealing with at the moment. I mean, when we spoke about initially, it's a pretty impressive client base, isn't it?
We are lucky enough to work with some really good clients. It's kind of come from our background that we started possibly more in block management and then moved over. So some of the multidisciplinary firms have picked us up, but we work for Savills, Cluttons, Knight Frank, Hamptons, Chestertons, kind of, I guess, some of the more bluer chip versions of letting agents, as well as, just as much a one branch estate agency in Lincoln or anything like that. So we do the whole thing, but we are lucky enough to work with some of the bigger names as well.
They're the bluest of chips. That's the So I don't need to ask about your service level agreements and stuff like that, because obviously they expect the very best, and I'm assuming they must be getting it. And I think the key thing is you've been working with a number of these names for a long time, haven't you? So it's just the most obvious point there that for a company to keep clients like those on board who set and expect the very highest of standards, you've got to really make sure you're meeting those high values.
That, or nobody else wants to answer the phones at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'd like to think the former, and it is our niche, and obviously we like to think that we keep the repeat business. And without bigging ourselves up too much, we're responsible out of hours for that company's brand, because 99% of our clients want us to answer in their name. We do that, so we would answer as ABC Estates or whatever it might be out of hours. So we're actually entrusted with their brand between 6 o'clock at night and 9 o'clock the next working day, at least on the maintenance side. To be those people, we are purporting to be their emergency out of hours service. So they believe they're talking to that company. So hopefully that reflects what we do. Yeah.
I think the key thing there is that we're having a number of offline conversations with other suppliers, and the likes of, we were talking about to Vabu earlier, who do like tenant rewards and things like that, and we'll be talking to some of the actual review platforms. And of course, it's so hard for agents to defend their reputations online, because so many tenants issue such a critical view of agents without really understanding why. So as you said, you are representing these companies out of hours, but there's nothing more guaranteed to get one of those people giving a critical review if they simply can't get in contact with them, which of course is the key element here. And as you said, kind of with a bit of a shrug earlier, 24/7, 365 a year. But that's incredible, isn't it? I mean, and actually, we were talking at EA Masters. Increasingly, you've got to stop thinking about the fact that you are being judged against fellow estate agents. In this day and age, you're being based against other businesses in whatever vertical they are. And increasingly, if those ones are moving to a 24/7 ethos, that's it's like that, isn't it? That's what the expectation is. You can get on the phone to someone and deal with it at any given time.
Yeah, I mean, certainly when we first started 13 years ago, there was occasionally people that raised their eyebrows and said, "I'm not sure if we actually need this," but I'm pretty certain. I mean, it doesn't have to be us. We would like to think it should be, but everybody, it seems now, needs to have something in place to be able to, and not necessarily, to find out if that 2-bed's still available or whatever. But if you've got tenants that you're responsible for, and their boiler stops working on December the 14th when it's -3 degrees and they've got a 2-year-old in the property, you do have a problem if you don't have a way for those people to, to get help and assistance, which is what Adiuvo stands for, by the way, in Latin. That's where the name comes from. To help.
I knew there was some classy link. I should have. I'm
surprised a man like you didn't know that with your obvious public school background.
Yeah, I know Petteries Power Bus and all of that. So I've really let myself. It shows I was only allowed to do it for 1 year, and then I was moved into I should have known that, shouldn't I? Yeah. I think that's fantastic, though, to be honest, there, Colin, because one of the key elements there is you'd be salivating to then use this as a tool when pitching for business, wouldn't you, in all honesty? If turning this to your advantage when you're out there talking about it, and we offer this service 24/7, 365. You can talk about market share, you can talk about all manner of things, but if there's anything, so there can't be many USPs that you can just have on a simple tick list that would appeal to a landlord in such a simple way.
Yeah, and we like to think, again, the difference is because it's not just, I mean, we know the guys at Moneypenny, we work with them on a couple of bits and pieces and and stuff there, but our little niche, which, as you rightly said, they've always wanted to keep away from, is this, that we can do this with knowledge. It's not the fact that they're just getting through to a call centre, and I wrestled with the fact for ages that we are one, but we are. I like to still think of ourselves as a property management company, but we are a call centre, but we happen to be staffed by a mixture of customer service people, certainly, but with people with knowledge and experience. As I said before, ex-Cluttons, ex-D&G, we've got we're actually based over the water in Ireland, so we have a few people from the property background here that manage blocks and properties over here. And that's what we specialize in. We're not answering calls for any other kind of sector, alongside these. This is your baby. Yeah, well, we have a few properties to look after, so we have to make sure we concentrate on it.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I can see where obviously it would have taken many years. I mean, you're 75 staff as well, is that right?
Yeah. 5 new starters this week, so that will take us up to 80.
See, that's fantastic in terms of size scale, but also just that niche of having to have the expertise, and of course the training, the onboarding, and everything else there means that it's going to be very hard for a competitor to just go sprout out of nowhere, because they can't just sprout out very easily. Well, certainly they can't do both. They can't sprout out with scale and expertise, can they? And actually, you have already having that scale and first of all, the client base. Secondly, the exposure, as you said, nationally over there gives a real, is a really strong feather to your bow. I'm really
Plus, it's really difficult to find good staff to work at 2 o'clock in the morning as well.
Yeah, well,
it takes a while to put that team together.
Well, I'll ask you offline there to see how we can take Kerfuffle 24/7, 365.
Okay.
and see what I'm doing wrong with my lot who stop at 3:30. But that's probably a bit unfair, and then I'll start getting some rude things.
Pay them too much is the only answer.
Good stuff. Okay, so what? So you spoke about obviously the element that you've come from this ethos, but what other reasons should agents feel like they can trust this most valuable of resources with you?
I think well, they are entrusting their most valuable, nigh on their most valuable resources, which is their tenants, their residents. And you know, and as I said, entrusting their brand that their landlords are reacting to. I mean, hopefully it does come down to that knowledge, and now the setup that we've got, that we can deal with kind of pretty much any instance. We know what we're doing. I think hopefully we provide a kind of peace of mind for agents that they can turn their phones off at 5. I mean, all right, I don't do it, but we know people have a stressful kind of job, especially the current climate, you know, trying to keep doors open, trying to keep jobs open. But if they can actually, you know, kind of turn that phone off and know that, you know, unless it's something ridiculously off the wall, and we have an escalation rate of about 4% so far. So 1 in 20 calls, we might check in with you if something serious enough has happened. You know, you need to know about. But otherwise, the other 19 out of 20, we're just going to deal with. We're going to deal with correctly. We're going to know, as I said, the difference between somebody reporting no hot water on July the 14th and it's 74 degrees outside, and it's a Tuesday night at 11 o'clock. We're not instructing on that because we shouldn't be. You know, you've got 24 hours to at least get that in place, and we're not charging the landlord the uplift at that time. But if the same circumstances happens at December the 14th, and you know, the vulnerable people, they're going to get it. And we know the difference between those sets of circumstances. It's why people tend to use us, because we understand those differences and the nuances, because this is what we've always done, basically, for our working lives.
Yeah, and you spoke there about, you know, some of the clients challenging you kind of early on whether they actually needed that there. One of the things I was amazed at when we in my old CRM days, we used to have things like the landlord portals and the vendor portals, and we simply couldn't believe the amount of people that logged into these seemingly out of office hours. It was, you know, there seemingly was a demographic that never slept, or more night workers than we could ever believe. Has it been borne out over time that you know it is absolutely necessary?
Yeah, I mean, it was what you were saying earlier. Even if there isn't a necessity for an estate agent or a letting agent to be open 24/7, because you know the website can do some of their talking for them, or whatever else they have in place. It's just especially from the younger generation, mostly the renting people as well, there's just this expectation of being able to do everything else 24/7. So why can't I phone my estate agent 24/7? I think is where it comes from, rather than actually thinking I should be able to phone specifically my estate agent. But then obviously every now and then they really do need to do it because, you know, there's water pouring out of this, or the electrics are sparking, or, you know, there's an actual problem where material damage or the health and safety of the residents is at risk. But it's definitely much more of an expectation now. I mean, we regularly get calls where people say, "Oh, I just wanted to check when the rent was due," or, you know, spurious kind of things, you know. But they almost expected someone to be there to answer the phone.
Yeah.
We politely refer them back to the client for the next day for, you know, things like that. But there is an expectation. We work a lot on the block side, and probably even more on that. We get kind of calls for people just, "Oh, can I pay my service charge?" or things like that at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So I think it's just an expectation these days.
It is. Well, look, you're 5-star rated on the site, which goes to say, obviously, your clients are backing up exactly what you've got to say. And then we've actually got one of them let's put these up here. So we've got Jay Bannister of Sterling Ackroyd makes the point: I found their product and service to be second to none. I've used Adiuvo to look after the portfolio I managed for a little over 5 years, and have found their product and service to be second to none. I found that Adiuvo represent myself and our agency very well and deal with everything pragmatically. And the crucial thing there, in brackets, and in a cost-effective manner. That's kind of just does what it says on the tin. Just on that point, sorry, and if I missed the point earlier, do you answer it then you answer it as the agent you represent, white labeled essentially.
We do what we do white label, yeah. So we'll give the client their own unique VoIP DDI, which they can use either to advertise that number, or they can just on their night service, just automatically divert whatever they might have had in place before, whether it be mobile, office number, whatever, landline. They can just divert straight to us. That gives us recognition on our system, so we can answer in anybody's name.
And that you mentioned blocks earlier. You're obviously doing a lot of those, and obviously the 75 staff member. But that key element, obviously, of the decision making means that you are different from just a simple messaging service or contractor, isn't it? And I mean, I was just stunned to hear that you said earlier that you were, that has meant that you were looking at a portfolio of over 600,000 properties. Is that right?
We are responsible for 600,000, so probably about 100,000 letting stroke standalone properties, and then 500,000 made up of various blocks over the block management thing.
Staggering.
And I think kind of hopefully, because as people, if they ever approach us, will find out we don't charge for instructing contractors or not instructing contractors. We may put a little markup on for our own if we use them, but we get paid on a subscription model. So our advice is objective, because we don't win. If we instruct on a job, it doesn't make any difference to our bottom line or not. So we're completely objective, because I think in the old days, maybe contractors used to take those phones out of hours. And of course, the payoff for them is they got to go to a lot of call outs, which is...
And what you're almost doing there is, aren't you, like so often with com plans, if you commission, if you give the referrals to the wrong element, it's going to reinforce the wrong behaviour, isn't it? So that makes perfect sense there. Okay, right, and so just talk us through in terms of this kind of the reporting side of things, because I believe haven't you got an integration with Fixflow at some level?
Yeah, it's a little more basic than I would like at the moment with Raj, but we're working on the full integration at the moment. In fact, we have somebody specifically doing it from this week. But at the moment, you can set Fixflow up to recognize if perhaps people are using Fixflow to report something which might be an emergency, and if they are, and it falls in our hours that we're responsible for, it'll push that notification, as well as recording it in Fixflow. It'll push it to us, and then we'll get it via email, actually, just very simple. And then we'll actually go, hang on a second, they're reporting that there's a problem with, let's just say, they're reporting a problem with an alarm, and they're not quite sure what it is, and it sounds to us like it might be the CO2 alarm, for example, from their description, perhaps, whatever. And then we'll just phone them up and say, hey, you've reported this via Fixflow. I think we should be dealing with this right now.
Yeah.
And then shortly, though, we'll be able to push information backwards and forwards. So anything we do on our system will be able to just go straight onto Fixflow. So there'll be no copying and pasting for our for our clients. Once they get our reports, it'll just update Fixflow automatically.
That's a marriage made in heaven between you and Fixflow, isn't it? Really, if you're looking at two companies, should be working.
Exactly. I've known Raj for quite a bit of time, and to be honest, actually, he was pushing it before I dragged my backside into gear. So probably the one that held it up a little bit much. But we are working on it actively from yesterday, the next stage of the integration.
I know Raj very well, and his greatest gift to me as one of the foremost prop tech thinkers. He's telling me all the time why my business model will never work. So I'm now purely driven by spite, just to teach him wrong, and basically, he hates I tell him all the time that he's my mentor, and he says stop telling me.
Excellent.
Good. Okay. Look, just talk us through then that approach to suppliers again. Then, so essentially, yes, you're obviously happy to use the agents ones there, but you can recommend yourself as well.
Yeah. So if you've got your own preferred contractor, no problem. If your landlord's got his own one, no problem. If you don't, but the landlord does on that one, again, we can just follow your instructions there. But if you want us to provide the contractor, we will do. It's certainly not. We don't insist on it. Quite often, perhaps your contractors know, or the estate agent's contractors know individual properties better. So if they're providing an out-of-hours service, keep them doing it. But if you have got a property in I don't know why I keep saying Ipswich, but Ipswich, and there's a problem at 2 o'clock in the morning and you need a plumber, we can provide one. We have UK coverage. Our portfolio is from Exeter to Edinburgh. So we do charge a little bit of an admin fee each time that goes out, but we publish that to our clients. But we are equally as happy as instructing your guys, but ours are there as a fallback. And contractors, as everybody knows, are so difficult to find good ones to work with. Out of hours, times that by 10 to find people that are reliable and good to do it. We've spent 10, 12 years building our supplier list and still do every day. So we can cover all the essential trades out of hours.
I mean, I think that in it, obviously you've got your core business function there, but that in it is going to be gold dust to some people, isn't it? I mean, I can see why that would be so, given your exposure to that part of the marketplace with the size and scale and everything that you've got.
I think that's the difference. It's the scale. So I can maybe get a contractor that's quite prepared to go again to Ipswich at 2 o'clock in the morning because I'm giving him enough work. But if you're an agent with 200, 300, 100 properties, whatever, you're not going to need that guy very often because, it doesn't happen that often. So I think because we've got volume, we can probably at times provide better supplier lists availability than some, although you'll always have those local ones that work for you that are really good, that are still happy to go out at all hours.
Okay, great. And another one here, we've got Sam Mason as well from so I couldn't imagine doing sorry, I'm just hiding you for a second. So if you want to have a cup of tea or something, where you can
Best
do.
way.
It's it's worth it. I couldn't imagine doing my job without Adiuvo now. I just wanted to pass on a huge thank you to you and all your fantastic staff at Adiuvo. I have not forgotten just how hard life was for me before we found your company. The endless calls at 2 a.m. I gave up asking on a Friday afternoon if anyone would like to take the work phone home. Oh, that sounds very true. Okay. I have peace of mind knowing that you are all professionals in our industry and not contractors. Therefore, when an emergency arises and when it doesn't. So that's great, isn't it? There. And talk us through your procedures then, in terms of, I think from what you said, you publish a best practice, best medium practice.
Yeah. So look, we look after HMOs in kind of like Edinburgh, and we look after one property that I always refer to that's £30,000 a month in central London, the rent. So we do everything. We do have a set of what we think is median best practice. And you can find those on our website. Actually, anybody can download them for anything. So even if you don't want to use us, but you want to sneak a look at our procedures and how to do out of hours, because it'll help your staff do them themselves. If that's the route you want to go down, feel free to go grab them, because it's the procedures probably aren't the most difficult part of the job. Actually, it's just getting people to answer the phones. But what we do though is we say to all our clients when we onboard them, if you don't tell me any different, this is what we think is best current practice, and we review them every quarter to reflect kind of any legislative changes or anything like that. But here's the crucial thing: one size doesn't fit all, because if you're an estate agent and I'm one, we work in different markets, we work in different areas, we have different target clients, different tenants, different everything. And you need to be able to promote your services you see fit. And so our procedures we're perfectly able to bespoke them for you. So we'll go, this is what we think. But if you want to do, here's a classic one. Most letting agents will say that if a tenant loses their keys, it's their responsibility. Best advice is they get a locksmith, keep at least 2 copies of the keys to give to the agent after they've done it, and it's their responsibility. I'd say 95% of our clients use that procedure for out of hours. However, about 5% of them say, no, we're not like that. Our landlords are not like that. They have got a luxury product, or they've got X, Y, and Z, and they believe that if you guys locked out at 3 o'clock, I'd rather one of the people that we know goes and sorts that problem and does that, and we'll worry about the charging with the landlord, or we'll do it, we'll pick it up. An extreme example, but that's what it can be. So if you want to bespoke any of the individual procedures, I mean, it's a horrendously boring document. It's about 12. And I can say that because I wrote it, so it's fine. And it's in prose as well, with lots of ifs, buts, and maybes.
Okay.
But if you want to change any of that to reflect how you look after your tenants and what service you provide to your landlords, then we have no excuse for not knowing that, because whenever we pick up the phone, it triggers the client on our system. And so I'm picking up and going, ABC Estates, how are you? How can I help you? That triggers there. And one of the first things that my agents will see is any differences in procedures that this client has as opposed to anybody else. So we can represent you. We realized that early on. So in order to be able to represent you properly, we need to be able to have a service that fits every different kind of approach that is out there. Because as I said, everybody works in different markets.
Of course, yeah, it's not homogenous, is it? I was just talking to Rich, who's our Rich Durant, who's our strategies director, just earlier, and he was talking about obviously the difference that we're talking about, the classic difference between sales and lettings and the property management, and of course, it is that process element that defines property management in particular, and checklists, much as they might be boring, are the defining reason why the property management process is happened so well and in scale, isn't it, realistically?
Yeah, I mean, as long as you pepper it with a bit of knowledge and you make sure that you're aware of the, you can't send anybody up in pouring rain and massive winds because of working at height regulations, and you understand, X, Y, and Z, then yeah, to a large degree, you can process drive it, as long as you've got that knowledge that's sitting there to make those kind of like grey decisions. There are some things that are easily black and white that, frankly, most people could probably do with a script. But one of the things that does set us apart from most call centers is we don't have any scripts. The idea is that we know conversationally. We might have a scripts for the inbound kind of like initial data capture, but then when it goes to our actual property management team, that's not script driven at all. That's like
natural conversations and just to get to the right result. That's really good. Talk us through as well, because obviously it's not just it's not just the holidays or Christmas that you have people there. I think, did you say you had 14 staff on Christmas Day last year as well?
Yeah, we're just doing the Christmas rotors at the moment, actually. So that's always a fun one. I think we have.
That's like that lady earlier, wasn't it? She, who's going to take the phone? Who's taking?
Yeah. I think we plan to have 16 on this year. I think it is 16 during the main 12-hour shift of the day. But yeah, so we basically come on every day at 5 o'clock in the evening, work till 9 o'clock the next morning, each working day. But any of our contracts cover all of those non-core office hours, all weekend and all bank holidays. Plus, with notice, we can cover odd, weird days. In the old days when we could do stuff, there was a lot of training days that we might cover when the offices were having a shindig or going to Ascot or doing whatever they do for their staff to reward them for some party. Yeah. And they just, I mean, it wouldn't be the full service, it would be an emergency response, but that means they knew that if anything untoward happened on that Wednesday when they were.
So you just lost the sound. Can you hear me? Just say something. How about there? You there? No, I've just suddenly lost you. Lost the. Oh, there you're back. You're back.
Another one. I switched to the webcam kind of microphone. Can you hear me still now?
Yeah, that's fine. I've got you now. It's a bit echoey, but that's absolutely fine. Sorry, I don't know what happened there.
It might have been a moment, to be perfectly honest. But as long as you can still hear me now, I'm using the webcam microphone.
It was because I've got you. It's because you mentioned Ascot. You said the demo. Unhappy there. Okay, I mean that's absolutely fantastic that you've got that. Mind you, I would say that's probably going to be the most exciting Christmas most people have got, isn't it? Getting together with 16 other people in the office.
Well, except most of them are working from home right now, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
We've actually had offers for the overtime over the Christmas period this time, because people, I mean, whatever the difficulty sometimes, and running a call centre does have difficulties working from home because you miss the communal problem solving sometimes that you have to export to teams rather than anything else. But yeah, with people working from home, it means that, you know, in theory they could just pop on their PJs and still be answering calls expertly, even if they don't look like they're experts at the time.
So, Colin, you've expressed upon us, obviously, the importance of the knowledge and everything else. How much does all this cost to be able to deliver this 24/7 service and, you know, high-end advice?
It's a fortune. No. So we work on a subscription model of per property per annum.
Okay.
The one caveat that I'll get to at the end, because we have a minimum monthly fee.
Yeah.
But basically, £6.50 per property per annum.
Okay. Wow. Okay,
so for £6.50, whatever that property throws at us for the year, and let's be honest, some properties will throw at us a lot.
Yeah.
Some have brilliant tenants who fix everything themselves, or don't worry about X, Y, and Z going wrong, or save off all the small bits and don't call us. But as I said, it's a subscription model, but we do have a minimum fee of £200 per month.
Yeah. Yeah, but that makes sense. So yeah, it's not like you can't really just have people dipping in and dipping out, can you? They've got to.
Or just giving us 3 properties for you know, £19.50 for the year, because obviously we have to set lines up, we have to bespoke procedures for everybody. We have to do the same amount of setup whether you've got 12 properties as whether one of our block clients has 81,000 properties. So the setup is still the same, unfortunately. So a minimum fee of £200 per month. But if you want to break it other than that, £6.50 per property per annum. Some of our clients charge it on to the landlord and have it as a separate standalone but advertised services. Some absorb it. None of my business how you do that or what you charge it out afterwards. But that's entirely your decision, not ours.
But I've read out a couple there, and there's more on the website for anyone who wants to go have a look there. You know, we heard just above that somebody said it was fantastic value for money. It certainly strikes me that peace of mind has to come at a price, and that doesn't strike me as being a bad price at all. And look, you know, you've got some absolute, yes, as you said, those blue chips there. But, you know, I've dealt with those blue chips before, and they negotiate hard on their fees. So I'm sure you're in that right, lovely Goldilocks zone of not too cheap and not too expensive.
One would hope so.
Good stuff. So just talk us through again. We've spoke about a couple of the above. What do your clients say about you? And crucially, what would you like to think your clients said about you when you weren't in the room?
Well, apart from the stunning good looks, obviously.
That was obvious.
I think what I'd like to say, what I hope they say is we provide expert knowledge at a reasonable price at ridiculous times.
Yeah.
So ridiculous times of the day. And to be honest, all we are in inverted commas, and that is inverted commas because I was one. You know, is we're a bunch of property managers that work stupid hours. That we do that. So we've made that expertise available at unusual times. And I just hope that, like one of those reviews earlier, that we allow people that, Jesus, I know how hard, for both when I was actually probably gainfully employed, I sat in departments that were next to the sales or the lettings team. I know how hard these people work. And, Jesus, lettings especially gets even more process driven and more stuff that government palms off onto people to do for them, and all the checks that are now on the balances and all the stuff there. Just to be able to turn that phone off and be able to know that if something happens, that it's covered and that they're providing a service to their landlords and to their residents in their every now and again their time of need, sometimes in their non-time of need, and we can put them right about that nicely. That they can shut their phone off, and that we're not charging them, we're not charging them the earth to do it, that we're charging a reasonable rate that means that they can get some respite from doing that, or being on holiday, and that oven that always stops working on Christmas Eve, or the leak that always only happens at 4 o'clock in the morning, or whatever else, because so I'm hoping it's expertise at reasonably good value, money wise, that equals great value overall.
Is there? Do you have a demographic that's a kind of, obviously we were talking about sort of that mid to top end block of prime agents. Do you specialise in that group, or did you, or as you said, actually with the scalability and the coverage you've got across the country, you literally are, you can, whether it's a one office agent or a 500 office.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, and laughing, we said it earlier. We do have somebody that has 3 properties. That gives it to us for £200 a month, actually. So, because I mean, I think I mentioned it earlier. We do everything from HMOs in Edinburgh to, I'm not picking on the fact that Edinburgh only has HMOs, of course, lovely properties as well. But we do everything. I mean, property management is property management, and actually, there's no excuse for not giving the residents in that HMO the same response as that person in, I don't know, Ovington Square or wherever, or Park Lane, or wherever some of our properties may be. Those tenants still deserve to be looked after and have a quick response to anything that's putting their safety at risk.
Yeah, perfect. And so we've got your costs there, but you've been very kind to say for our Kerfuffle members that you've been able to do a special deal. Do you want to just give us just an overview?
Yeah, so occasionally, because it is quite intensive, we have to charge for the onboarding and some administration costs on top of that £6.50 per annum. But to any Kerfuffle people coming to us from Kerfuffle or any Kerfuffle users, there will be no onboarding costs, and there will never be any admin fee. So we'll always stay at the £6.50 per annum.
And then, as if by magic, I have the ability to put everything up on the screen. Yeah, exactly. Well, Colin, thank you. First of all, thank you very much for that. It's, again, fascinating. Every time I talk to you, I just learn a little bit more about the size scale that you're able to deliver there. I know for me, easy to say here in my PropTech tower, but it would just be obvious to be picking up the phone to you and letting you pick up the phone to my clients. But I'm sure our clients will be a little bit more hard on the negotiation. But I encourage everybody getting in contact with Colin directly. Obviously, just mention Kerfuffle. Do make sure, as we always say on these showcases, this is the first one where we're introducing the company and the people there. Go and have a look on the landing page, learn a little bit more about them. Look at those reviews. They've always named people. They're not they're not anonymized, so you can have complete faith in the fact that they are tried and tested reviews there. And if you want to, there's an I'm interested button on that landing page. Please click on it if you need to, and of course we will pass on all of those leads to Colin directly, who can help you out with your inquiry. I mean, I think for me, Colin, really looking at the sort of the main takeaways really in this is, with being able to just concentrate on the value, the expertise, and the peace of mind without having to be on call all the time, it's well worth that £6.50.
I'm going to agree, but obviously I would.
Yeah, I told you, you weren't coming on Paxman.
Yeah.
Great. Well, Colin, I mean, congratulations, whatever else it is, and I don't say this lightly. From my point of view, and I'm meant to be a little bit of an expert. I think it's fascinating, a company of that size scale doing what you've done, and I didn't know all about you, but that shows you're probably doing your job too well, isn't it? Because actually, these companies, actually people are just dealing with you indirectly without ever knowing, and that's a fantastic.
The end user should never know who Adiuvo are. If you're doing the job properly, nobody outside the people that take us on and employ us, the end user should never know who we are, because we should be good enough that we're representing their brand, and we are them, and no one ever questions that.
Brilliant. Well, look, absolutely great. Congratulations on what sounds an absolutely fantastic business. Encourage everybody to get in contact and to download that guide you were talking about on your own website. We'll post that up and mail it out afterwards, because I think you have, as you said, it might be a big boring document, as you put it. But actually, I know to get that. To have to extract it, to get the time, energy to sit down and go through things like that is actually the difference, isn't it? Because it's one thing being in your head, it makes such a dramatic difference when you get that out of your head to other people within the business.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always find it just the best starting point to discuss, how people want to purport, how to represent themselves to their people, it just clarifies what we actually do to everybody, so you know where you stand and how we're going to act on your behalf.
Yeah. Well, look, Kerfuffle has always been the first company to hang on to someone's coattails, so we look forwards to that. I'm going to go away and now rekindle my love of Latin and pronunciation. So, Colin from Adiuvo, and if I got it wrong again, I think I've pronounced it 7 different styles. So,
everybody does, don't worry.
Don't worry, by the next time I will be all over this. Colin, thank you very much for your time today. Wish you the very best, and tell the team who are working on Christmas I'm thinking of them.
Thanks very much, Simon. Thank you for your time.
Cheers, Colin. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Oh.